spotlighting the power and resolve of the Peace Through Strength agenda. But first, we continue our coverage out of California, where we are now learning that LA Mayor Karen Bass was at a cocktail party in Ghana as the fires worsened. And that is not all. There was a delay in declaring an emergency declaration and delays in securing additional resources for the city to fight the fires. But when the mayor was asked about it, she refused to take any responsibility. Watch.
You have taken that trip overseas.
You know, I am going to focus today
but please,
on what we know.
Mayor, can I ask you one question about Mount Gouge?
And as early as last month, LA firefighters warned that the situation surrounding staff and resources was dire and that more needed to be done. Watch.
Commission meeting, you said it's dire. Someone will die.
It's eerie listening to your words because that's what occurred. So let me just take a minute. Sorry.
Fire Captain Freddie Escobar,
You're not supposed to make me cry.
35-year veteran of the Los Angeles Fire Department, wishes he'd been wrong, and this had not happened.
And frustrations continue to grow as Pacific Palisades residents are demanding access to get back into their neighborhoods, but continue to be stonewalled by local and state officials. Governor Gavin Newsom is facing yet another recall threat, and Angelenos are fed up with empty gestures and political grandstanding. Joining me now from Los Angeles, a senior editor at large at Breitbart News. He is the author of the new book, The Agenda: What Trump Should Do in His First 100 Days. He is also a Pacific Palisades resident. Joel Pollack, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Ambassador.
And, honestly, our hearts and prayers go out to you, to everyone that, that live in the area. It's so heartbreaking to see devastation like this at such a catastrophic level that could have been prevented and handled in the right way. You live right in the heart of Pacific Palisades. And as I understand it, your home, thanks be to God, did survive, but the neighborhood is obviously decimated. What are the latest updates on the ground?
Well, the latest updates are that they have identified 8 people who have been killed in this fire and 15 who are still missing. Oh. And the only people allowed up here are journalists, police, fire, emergency personnel. And because I'm a resident and a journalist, I am performing this weirdly quasi volunteer function as someone who can connect police to residents as they look for people. I've seen search and rescue teams with dogs looking for people who are reported missing. They are afraid that there might have been some people who didn't evacuate. So there's a desperate search for those people. But much of the Palisades has been destroyed. My house was spared, and it was spared partly, I think, because of topography and because of trees that we have along the side that shielded the house from flying embers, but also because of neighbors who came over apparently and used a garden hose while there was still water to water down my fence, which was on fire, because I came back to my house and found the garden hose fully extended by a completely burnt part of the fence. So that's the kind of community this is. People take care of each other. I'm standing here right now, not in my own neighborhood, but in one of the few neighborhoods that was relatively unscathed. This is one of the more upscale neighborhoods of Palisades. It's called the Huntington. Mm-hmm. And behind me is a house. Well, this used to be a house.
Oh my God.
This is almost completely destroyed. There's one building still on the property, but you can see behind me the entire main body of the house is destroyed. That blue sky and the palm trees and so forth, it's very nice to see, but there was a house there in front of those trees at one point. And you find that even in the wealthier areas of Palisades, there were homes that burnt down. This was an absolutely massive fire. 80-mile-per-hour winds, gusts up to 100 miles per hour on the tops of the mountains around here. And it's such an amazingly beautiful place. I've loved living here, and people are planning to rebuild. The mood among Palisades residents is, how soon can we get contractors in? How soon can we get the permits and the architects? People want to stay here. They want to rebuild.
Well, that's a positive, and it's just probably masks how they feel inside, which is just devastating. But at least it's a really good, healthy attitude and trying to rebuild and invest back in the, community. But as you see there, firefighters, battling these, the flames. Obviously, the more we learn, the more terrifying the story is. I mean, quite frankly, and the mayor was at a cocktail party. The reservoir was empty. Firefighters say they weren't given the resources to combat the flames. It is a failure of government. How do you digest all of that?
It absolutely is a failure of government. Yes, there's a natural component to it, but the mayor had no business being out of the country when she knew an extreme wind event with life-threatening potential was about to descend on her city. She should have been here. The fire department should have been pre-deployed to the Palisades and other areas with large amounts of brush and trees and forest and open space. And they weren't. They were pre-deployed in some numbers elsewhere. But we were told by Freddie Escobar, that fire union chief that was just played on one of your clips, that they didn't pre-deploy the fire department because the city didn't want to pay overtime because of budget cuts that the mayor and the city council had made to the fire department. And there were evacuation warnings that came very late. There were no police officers to direct traffic during the evacuation, so there were traffic jams and people panicked and left their vehicles behind and ran to the ocean, causing even more pileups and more difficulty in evacuating. And there was no fire education. I have lived in other fire-prone areas where the public is repeatedly reminded not to smoke outdoors, not to set off fireworks. There are little signs here and there in the brush, no smoking, no fireworks, but the penalty is $1,000 as a fine. It needs to be much, much stiffer because we believe as residents here that fireworks on New Year's Eve that caused a small fire are responsible for the later fire that emerged. And the wind picked that fire up. And if there had been more law enforcement around fireworks, more public education, then this wouldn't have happened. So it's a government failure on many different levels.
No, you're right about that. And in the Palisades itself, Rick Caruso's Palisades Village Mall is one of the only structures that survived unscathed due to prevention measures and private firefighters. Is that symbolic of what LA could have had, as mayor, if somebody actually took those measures to prevent this destruction?
Absolutely. Rick Caruso ran in 2022 against Karen Bass. She was a Democratic member of Congress, very left-wing, far left ideology. She ran and she won 55% to 45%. It was pretty close, but she now is failing completely, while Caruso, who is a developer who owns and develops several malls, the Grove in Beverly Hills, if you've been,
Yes.
Palisades Village here, and Palisades Village survived. He used private firefighting. Apparently, he also used some new fire-resistant building materials, and he managed to protect his property, his investment, and the businesses in it. And they also managed to protect some businesses across the street, not all of them, but some of them. And it just shows you that if the city had expended the resources to protect the rest of the business district, which you also showed up there, there was a
Yes.
before and after shot, and that's the Palisades business block, the oldest building in town. It was a beautiful building. They had just repainted it.
Unbelievable.
That could have been protected, but it wasn't. It's right across from the Village Mall, which survived. And so there's a poll that came out from Rasmussen. They asked people, do you think it would have been better if Caruso had won? 35% said yes, and 29% said no. So Karen Bass has rapidly lost the support of the people who put her into office. She's at disapproval rating of 44%, which is higher than her approval rating. So there's a lot of outrage about the fact that she was gone and did not lead the city through this crisis.
Absolutely terrible. And there has to be accountability, for this. It's just a total disgrace and a failure, abject failure of government and of a lack of leadership on her part. And of course, as we know, inauguration is just days away. But you have a new book out called The Agenda. What do you anticipate we will see and what you would like to see over these first 100 days?
Well, in the agenda, I talked about what Trump could do without Congress, without having his appointees in place, what he could do on his own on the first day or first 100 days in office. And I began with the restoration of the rule of law. A lot of people went to jail. They were persecuted by the Department of Justice, the January 6th committee. They should be pardoned or commuted sentences. And then I go on to the border. He has to restore his very successful border policies that Biden reversed. I talk about solving some world conflicts. He's going to do that in the next few days with the hostage deal that hopefully stays together. And there are so many things I wrote about in that book, but I would actually add something now. Obviously, I didn't know this fire was coming, but I did talk about wildfire management. And I would add to the points I made in the book. I think President Trump needs to appoint a California czar, someone who deals specifically with California to help it rebuild, because the California state government and especially the Los Angeles city government have failed. And we need to throw out the California model. It is a failure. We love living here and we love the weather, we love the people, the creativity, the dynamism, but we also have the crime, the homelessness, the high taxes, the failing public services. It doesn't work. We need someone to come in who can rebuild this community and other communities and who can throw out the old system and redesign California.
No, you're absolutely right about that. So I like the idea of a California czar. I mean, it's kind of warranted and called for at this point because they don't know what they're doing. They're ruining it. That's one of the main reasons Trump won, because nobody wanted the rest of the country to be like California. I used to live there too, you know, God bless. Beautiful state, incredible. But the way things have fallen into disrepair and excessive taxation and just failure of leadership is absolutely outrageous. I want to talk about something else, though, too, which is President Trump's, desire, and wants to do a deal to free the hostages. How can the Trump administration, right all of Biden's wrongs in the Middle East and everywhere else?
Well, it's clear he's already made so much progress because he's trusted by the Israelis. That's the most important thing. Israel tends to make concessions when it feels secure. And they know that Trump will protect them and will allow them to go after terrorists if they strike again. So it's only because President Trump warned Hamas that there would be all hell to pay if the hostages weren't freed that there was any progress at all in this negotiation. Because, first of all, Hamas was afraid, so they became more flexible. And secondly, Israel felt secure enough to make some concessions to reach a deal. So President-elect Trump has had one of the most successful transition periods of any president in history because he's already brought about a solution, possibly, to this problem that's dragged on for almost a year and a half.
And what do you see as the Trump doctrine in your eyes?
The Trump doctrine is peace through strength, but I would add, peace through strength was the Reagan doctrine. I would add with President Trump, peace through strength, or else we're going to hurt you financially. Trump understands economic pressure the way no president has understood before. And I have to say that he convinced me, or really converted me, on the issue of tariffs, because I tend to be a free trade enthusiast, and I still am. But when he used tariffs to achieve diplomatic results in his first term, prices didn't generally go up, and we didn't have a kind of economic problem the way some in the media like to say we would if he raised tariffs again. He showed that you can use tariffs as an effective, nonviolent tool of diplomacy. If you hit people in their pocketbooks, if you hit these countries, the terrorists, where they make money, then you can actually achieve outcomes. That's not something I think Biden and the Democrats understand. So I can really trust that one of the things Trump's going to do when he gets into office isn't going to declare war on Iran, but he's going to put sanctions back in. He's going to hurt their bottom line. And that will achieve political change in Iran and it'll achieve diplomatic results. I just use that as one example. Or take Ukraine and Russia. I support Ukraine's self-defense against Russia, but we can't write blank checks to Ukraine forever. If you want to get negotiations, you tell people, all right, the money's cut off. And that'll get people to the table very quickly. So I think Trump understands financial and economic pressure in a way that no president has. So I would say that that's what he brings to the Reagan model. It's a kind of financial weaponry alongside the military.
No, I think you're right about that. He's using it as a negotiation tactic, an effective financial tool to effectuate policy. And let's talk about the Jewish, community. It's a voting bloc that has shifted right in support, in my opinion, of President Trump. Where does it go from here?
Well, the Jewish community is a small voting bloc, but a very influential one and also somewhat diverse one. So generally speaking, Jewish voters are liberal and they vote Democratic. But the more observant you are religiously, the more Republican you tend to be, partly for social reasons, and also partly because Jews who are more visibly involved in the community, or they look obviously Jewish, they wear Jewish kippot or yarmulkes like I do actually, they tend to be more concerned about anti-Semitism, more concerned about Israel. And those are issues on which Trump has done better than any Democratic opponent he's faced. when you get sort of more general Jewish population, you do have liberal cultural tendencies, which have deep roots, and they tend to pray and vote the same way. They are essentially religiously liberal almost, and so they haven't shifted much. But there has been a shift, especially since October 7th, with all of the anti-Semitism, especially on college campuses, which liberal Jews take very seriously. And now that they're worried about sending their kids to elite liberal colleges, they're starting to see the wisdom in some of what Donald Trump was doing. So you did see a shift, especially in the Northeast, but in other places as well. I don't know if that will continue, but I do think if President Trump can have as successful a second term as he had a first term, you will see that shift continue.
Yeah, I think so. And then we had the Treasury Secretary as well, Scott Bessent. Some of your thoughts on that and some of the confirmation hearings.
Well, I haven't been able to follow them as closely because I've been just literally surrounded by this destruction in my
Fire.
community, but I have followed them a little bit. It doesn't seem that the Democrats have laid a glove on any of the nominees, and they've performed very well. And I think that Republicans will stay united. Also, I think Republicans feel like they've been so mistreated by Democrats over the last 4 years that a nominee would have to be really bad or there'd have to be something really wrong to lose Republican support. You might lose one or two, but I think the confirmation hearings seem to be going very well. And I think the nominees are going to have a transformative effect on some of these departments, get them back to what they're supposed to be doing.
No, I think you're right about that. And it seems like it's going very well. Pam Bondi did well, Pete Hegseth, Scott Bessent, then we'll have Kash Patel coming up next. So it's things appear to be running very smoothly. And just as we kind of wrap up here, how going through, I guess personally, for you, these fires, how has it affected you on a personal note? And what do you think recovery looks like for people who have gone through, this experience? And what have your neighbors been saying?
Well, there's so much to say in response to that question. My son is 9 years old, and his public school was next door to our house, and it burnt down. And he loves that school. He loves his friends at the school. And he is one of two children in the entire fourth grade class that still has a house. The other kids don't have houses anymore. So many of them have evacuated far away. The school set up an alternate site that my son has been going to, and he's so happy to be there, even though it's a 15-minute drive, not too far, but it's been very hard for him. And we're thrilled that our house survived. It survived, as I mentioned, because of neighbors. At one point, I had to carry buckets of water from the gutter because we had no running water. When I got into the Palisades with the press, I checked on my house and the fence was on fire. My neighbor's fence was on fire. My neighbor's trees were on fire. And if I didn't put those fires out, they could have burned my house, his house, all the remaining houses on the block. So I looked for a
Thank
source of
goodness.
water. And the first thing I did was went inside my house. Kitchen faucet didn't work. I looked for my wife's flower vases. I buy my wife flowers every Friday, and that's the water I used to start putting out the fire. That was the only water I had until I
Wow.
remembered my son's baseball bucket. He has 20 baseballs in a bucket in the backyard. I emptied the baseballs out, took the bucket, went to the gutter, filled up the bucket. Two guys drove by. We found some more buckets. We had a little assembly line. We put out the fire. But I didn't know when I left whether my house was going to survive even after that. And I'm grateful, so grateful that it did, but so brokenhearted about my neighbors because almost all of my neighbors' homes were lost. And close friends of mine have lost everything they owned. And many were underinsured. Some had no insurance because of the changes in California that have discouraged insurance. So insurance companies have pulled out or canceled their policies. So it's really quite devastating. And at times it is very emotional to cover this story. It's so weird to see the major networks setting up their cameras in my neighborhood, literally 50 yards away from my house, where my house and my neighborhood are suddenly the center of an international national disaster story, natural disaster story. I mean, it's just crazy. And this is such a wonderful community and people put so much into it. So I do think it will be rebuilt, but there's a lot of pain right now. And the only saving grace is that more people weren't killed because this was a very fast moving blaze. And the evacuation, as I mentioned, was chaotic. So we got 20,000 people out in time. As I say, they've identified 8 who were killed in the blaze, but it could have been so much worse. So that's the consolation we take.
Well, it's unbelievable. And, just amazing acts of heroism like that and quick thinking like you did, and people jumping in and working together in the community saves lives, saves homes. Thanks be to God, in the right place at the right time. You got that baseball bucket and the beautiful flowers you get every Friday for your wife. That came in handy too. What a pleasure.
You know what you're showing there on
Yeah.
the screen right now? I mean,
Go ahead.
that's close to the neighborhood I'm in, a little bit further north, and that's completely devastated. The library burnt down, the office buildings burnt down, the basketball gym at the rec center burnt down. Only the baseball fields remain, and they're trying to organize the Little League again because the Little League is the heart of this community. It's really a small town in the middle of LA. So everyone's trying their best. Everyone's pulling together, and I really do think we're going to make it.
All right. I know you're going to make it with the help of God and some good neighbors. I really appreciate it. And everybody go out and get his book. It lays out the whole case, the agenda for the first 100 days. Joel Pollack, thank you. We'll be thinking about you and praying for you, family and friends.
Thanks so much, Kim.
All right. And in the meantime, also be sure to support the 1775 Coffee Company. 1775 Coffee is brewed to perfection and it is crafted with precision and built on patriotism. The farm-to-cup process means there is quality, authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. All the beans are ethically and exclusively single-sourced, and that's not all, because 1775 Coffee stands for quality, freedom, and pushing back against the left-wing corporate agenda that's taken over so much of the coffee industry. So go ahead, try 1775 Coffee today. Go to 1775coffee.com/KG and you will get 15% off your first order. And I also want to bring you a special message from Patriot Lifestyle, where you can save more and spend less on a whole host of different benefits, from savings on travel, identity theft, legal services, and even pet care. Take a look. Kimberly Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect your values and supporting companies who support you. It's program. Kimberly Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect your values and supporting companies who support you. And the best part of all of this, Our benefits are at below market prices, so you can enjoy all of them while living the Patriot lifestyle to the fullest. So don't miss out. Visit our website at patriotbenefits.net. That's patriotbenefits.net. Thank you again for choosing the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program, where real benefits and real savings are our top priority. Join us today and start saving now. And you can go to patriotbenefits.net to learn more, because these programs all come at an extraordinary value and they will greatly improve your life. And today on Capitol Hill, key confirmation hearings for President Trump's cabinet took place in the Senate, including Treasury Secretary nominee Scott Bessent, who had this to say when confronted with Democrats' spin about tariffs and energy policy. Watch.
That was written in this room that was the biggest transformation on clean energy in American history. That is our package that basically said the tax code as it relates to energy is a broken down mess. And we basically said we're going to have a technology neutral system. The more you reduce carbon, the bigger your tax savings. Now there is a big effort in the Trump administration to reverse it. I think that's going to be bad for the economy, but it is going to be damn good for China, because we are in an arms race on clean energy with them. Are you going to be on the side of people who want to unravel this?
Senator Wyden, just so we can frame this for everyone in the room, China will build 100 new coal plants this year. There is not a clean energy race. There is an energy race. China will build 10 nuclear plants this year. That is not solar. I am in favor of more nuclear plants. And I would note that the IRA, as scored by the CBO, is wildly out of control in terms of spending on the upside.
And with Inauguration Day on Monday, it is critical we get these cabinet picks confirmed and get going on minute one. And joining me now, iconic political strategist, host of the Stone Zone, Roger Stone. Thank you so much for taking the time. It is a busy week indeed. And President Trump yesterday took to Truth Social to make it clear he doesn't want anyone connected to figures like John Bolton, Nikki Haley, or Mike Pence in his administration. What message does that send, and can we be successful in keeping those folks out?
Well, Kimberly, what it means is we're going to have an administration that is united in their commitment to the America First agenda of Donald Trump. Look, I think the president has to be given a little bit of a break. When he first came to Washington in 2017, he didn't come from the world of politics. He came from the world of business. He had been elected by the American people in an upset by running an audacious campaign of truth-telling. And perhaps he thought that all the Republicans were for him and only the Democrats were opposed to his agenda. That would turn out to be false, yet he still had an incredibly successful presidency, giving us the most robust economy in our history up until that point, record levels of low levels of unemployment among all Americans, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, young, old, urban, rural, bringing billions of dollars back into the economy here because of changes in the tax code that it made it more beneficial for businesses to build here and create jobs here. He rebuilt our military strength. He appointed scores of conservatives to the court. So even if he had not won the 2024 election, he already would have gone down in history as one of our greatest presidents. But yes, there was from the beginning a fifth column, if you will. It is the permanent political establishment that up until he took the Republican nomination in what was really a hostile takeover of the party by populists in 2016, they had dominated both parties. This time, I think, is quite different. His administration will not be infected by those who secretly believe their job is to delay or derail his agenda. And therefore, I think he is really dug in this transition, not just looking at the cabinet offices, but looking at the sub-cabinet offices, assistant secretaries, deputy assistant secretaries, heads of independent agencies like the SEC and the FCC, you're going to have a much more united, much more cohesive agenda, I should say, administration committed to the Trump agenda.
Tammy Bruce will be spokeswoman at State Department, and Leo Terrell, what a character, is going into the DOJ. Dear God. There's a level of star power here. How do you see it?
Well, I mean, every time I see one of these confirmation hearings, I say, "Wow, that's the star in the cabinet." Until the next day when I see someone else. I mean, Scott Bessent, you just showed a clip of him. This guy's a real brainiac. I mean, he understands job creation. He understands the need to address the affordable housing problem in the country. He understands what we need to do to try to get our debt under control. I think he's going to be a very good fit with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy in terms of looking for government waste. But then you see him Pam Bondi, who I think really handled herself extraordinarily well under partisan attack by hacks like Adam Schiff, of all people, to complain about weaponizing the criminal justice system. Adam Schiff, please, if it's Schiff, flush it.
Yeah, absolutely. We also saw a deal brokered by President Trump and Steve Witkoff for the Israeli hostages. We're already seeing the effects of real leadership, and it reminds me, of what the leadership that Reagan brought on the world stage. The Trump doctrine seems to be already getting into full force. Do you expect similar actions to address the never-ending war in Ukraine?
This is almost completely analogous to the situation with Ronald Reagan. The Iranians saw Jimmy Carter correctly as a weakling. They wouldn't deal with him because they didn't fear him. And before Reagan became president, they released the American hostages. This is almost analogous. They understand when Donald Trump says, if these hostages are not released by the time I become president, all hell is going to break loose. They know that he is a man who says what he means and means what he says. And kudos also to Steve Witkoff for some brilliant diplomacy here. But you see it in other areas as well, Kimberly. Suddenly now the FDA wants to outlaw red dye number 3, which is a great idea, showing that President Trump and Robert Kennedy's plan to make America healthy again, the bureaucrats are already in full retreat there as well. So you see this effect of people knowing that the next president is not going to be a patsy. The next president is a strong man. The next president is a man of courage who knows when to project American power, also when not to. Not a guy who's going to go around the world looking for wars to get into, but will always stand up for America's interests when our interests are absolutely clear.
Yes, absolutely. And Democrats in California and on Capitol Hill are still more interested in anti-Trump hysteria than fixing any problems. How much is that going to backfire?
It's amazing. Every one of these senators seems to want to bring up the 2020 election as if they didn't just lose the 2024 election by a record margin.
Right.
It's a tactic because they have no agenda. They had no message in the last election. They had no inspiring, uplifting agenda for the American people. President Trump did. He was very specific about what he was going to do, particularly in returning us to energy independence, for example, and his entire plan to revitalize our economy. And day after day, you hear about more and more stars going into this administration. This cabinet lineup, whether it's Tulsi Gabbard or Robert Kennedy or Pam Bondi or Scott Bessent or Pete Hegseth, I mean, this is an all-star cabinet. This is a team of superstars, every one of them not trying to be hot dogs, but committed to President Trump's agenda rather than their own agenda.
Well, let's talk about some of your thoughts, what you would like to see from President Trump. We're just inching closer and closer to Inauguration Day. And what you think would be very important, your Stone's rules for the first 100 days.
Well, look, I think all of my rules apply. Personally, I would like to see, and I think the easiest way to handle this is, I would like to see the president pardon those January 6 detainees who were charged with nonviolent offenses and commute the sentences of those who were convicted of violent offenses. I think these people have all suffered long enough. They have suffered under conditions in the DC jail which violate the Geneva Conventions, where they're treated worse than we treat international terrorists. That would be my wish for the president. This is a decision he has. He seems to be committed to clemency in this area, but I await his final decision. That would be the way I would suggest it be handled, however.
All right, and talk to me also about, it was a big theme and very important in terms of America First policy of securing the border. It is a matter of national security. Your thoughts on that?
Tom Homan is exactly the right guy in the right job. He's a tough guy. It's interesting that he has essentially quantified roughly 1.5 million individuals as being criminals or terrorists with an actual record. Now, President Eisenhower successfully deported 1.3 million people. So it can be done. All it requires is the will. And I guarantee you both Donald Trump and Tom Homan have the will to achieve that. There are obviously many millions more here who are here illegally, and I think that can be dealt with over time. But to begin with, a good start would be getting the most violent criminals out of our society and back to their place of origin.
I believe that that's going to happen. I think it's imperative, for the overall framework of what we need to do to secure the country, secure the border, the deportations that need to happen to restore, due process to the United States. I mean, it's unbelievable. And, as we sit here right now, we have no idea who's in here, what they intend, what their purposes are, because this was just mismanaged so terribly.
Well, the other hope I would have, frankly, is that the president will also focus not just on our southern border, but also on our northern border. Because the sad truth is that illegals and weapons and drugs and illegal cigarettes, interestingly enough, come across our northern border, and that has never been dealt with either. So I hope the president will look at that as well. But look, he just by putting back into place his executive orders regarding immigration in the southern border, we can stop the flow immediately. As of today, they're still entering the country in record numbers. So I think what you're going to see is immediate action from the Trump administration led by the most able Tom Homan.
Yes, that is for sure. I mean, I'm really excited, like you are, share, your enthusiasm for the cabinet picks and how everyone's done so well at their confirmation hearings. I'm excited about, DOJ with Pam Bondi as well and Pete Hegseth, as SecDef. So it's pretty exciting all the way around. And so the big question is, what are you going to talk about on your show today at 5 p.m. Eastern?
Well, actually, I'm talking about a shocking new tape that has just been revealed that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt is a conversation between Cliff Carter, who was the executive director of the Democrat National Committee, and Billy Sol Estes, who was a crony of Lyndon Baines Johnson. This tape confirms the central theory of my book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, that it was Lyndon Johnson who was the head of a plot that included the CIA, Big Texas Oil, organized crime, and the international banks and others, each of whom had their own motive to kill Kennedy. So it's kind of a historic show today on the Stone Zone at 8 p.m. right here on Rumble.
All right. Well, fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Roger. I'm sure I'll see you out and about at Inauguration.
Kimberly, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what to wear.
Exactly.
I'm going to go in the most traditional. I go to the etiquette book. The morning suit is what's required for the actual swearing in ceremony. And at night, it's theoretically white tie rather than black tie. I think I'll be the only person in white tie and tails, but that's definitely what I'll be wearing. You'll know me by the top hat.
Oh, there you go. We'll be looking for that, my friend. So I'll see you very soon heading out there tomorrow to DC through Tuesday. Be well, okay? We'll enjoy your show tonight.
See you there. God bless you.
All right. Take care. God bless. And in the meantime, check out our friends at the Birch Gold Group. It is a new year, and that means it is a great time to prepare for the future. And with President Trump back in office, you're about to have more money in your paycheck. Birch Gold will take you through the process step by step, answer any questions, and help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold so you don't have to pay a penny out of your pocket. Want to do it? Text KG to 989898 today. That's KG to the number 989898. And in closing, we are on the cusp of a new American revival and one day closer to what will be a historic inauguration. World leaders are taking notice. The top business titans are coming to the table, and we, the American people, are eager for day one action. It's been an incredible journey to make it to this moment, and we are just getting started. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Please be sure to download the Rumble app, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like and share, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And please also be sure to follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and now on TikTok. Stay tuned to Rumble for all the very latest breaking news coverage inside and outside of Washington. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I look forward to talking to you again very soon, and tune in to Don Jr.'s show at 6 p.m. Eastern.